Get the crunch in there. Really get it in the mic.
Don't like. Don't like 80% of the people that apply to your series, Chris. They say that their pet peeve is people eating on mic.
Yes, I think that is.
I said it too.
All right, we'll wait for you to finish the sandwich, and then we'll get right into it. Hey guys, it's Chris. Welcome to the third episode of the Medical Room Podcast. I know it's been a while, but we kind of wanted to do another podcast in celebration of the 41st season of Survivor dropping this Wednesday. So we're actually going to be splitting up this preseason Survivor 41 podcast into two parts. The first part is what you're going to listen to today, where I and a couple other fellow panelists are going to react to the preseason press that Survivor has released on their social medias and certain tweets that have come out regarding the season, and give our thoughts on the format changes going into the new season of Survivor 41. And the second podcast, which will be released later on Tuesday, will be a draft that me and the panelists take part in, where we draft 3 people each and give our thoughts one by one on the cast members as we draft them along, in hopes to see who has the most successful team in terms of placement by the end of the season. So I hope you enjoy the different viewpoints and interesting takes that the 6 of us give during this podcast. It's definitely quite a listen. And let me know if you want me to do more content like this, where I invite different people who have different thoughts on the season of Survivor that's ahead of us. I think it'd be really cool if I could do more podcasts about Survivor in the future, just for fun. That's it from me. Without further ado, the podcast of preseason hype for Survivor 41. All right, I would like to welcome everyone to the third episode of the Medical Room Podcast. I wanted to bring the podcast back again, and I'm joined here with 5 other lovely gentlemen: Landslide, Tim, Sinuar, Kidmoto, and JP. Yeah, why don't we just actually get into the preseason press, if you guys don't mind. I'm actually going to play 2 videos for us to watch and just reflect on what's coming up here with Survivor 41, and then a couple tweets. So the first video I'm gonna put up is what they would usually put at the end of a Survivor season to hype up for the next one. So I'm gonna play the Survivor 41 promo. It is a 3-minute video. All right, so we're back from watching the 3-minute video. So there are definitely a couple changes coming on Survivor 41, and the first one being 26 days instead of the regular 39 days. What do you guys think about that?
It was an accident.
Here, let me give a little more pretext to this. So they actually had to quarantine. They had to quarantine for 14 days before doing anything with the show. So if you think about it, 39 days minus 14 is 25. So they probably squeezed in another day in there just to say, all right, we can make the game run in for 26 days. And that won't be an issue in terms of scheduling for having the cast commit to 40 days of being on the show. And they also apparently considered filming domestically in Georgia and Hawaii.
Georgia?
Georgia, as in the state Georgia.
Uh-huh.
European country.
So that would have been really interesting to see, like a forest, I guess, kind of vibe, if that's what they were trying to go for.
I mean, there's like big lakes and shit in Georgia too.
Yeah, there's some swampland down there.
Mm-hmm. So that's what they were considering back when they wanted to film in 2020, but they ended up having to postpone till 2021, and they still had to quarantine in 2021, and that's why we have a shorter 26-day game, which is probably here to stay. So what do you guys think about that in terms of like how this is going to impact the game, the pace of the game?
I do think, like, if I were a player out there, I'd be a bit disappointed to not get like the full experience of the 39 days, but I do think it is going to make for like faster paced gameplay.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Oh, go ahead.
By all means, you go.
Oh boy. Okay. I thought this was a dissenting opinion, but I always think there's like 2 or 3 episodes that like are horrible and are really boring. So I'm hoping that the lack of like boring content, they're not like struggling to fill episodes. Like everything is going to be good and fast paced and fun. So I'm a fan of the shorter game.
Well, I disagree on that because we're still going to be having 13 episodes, and there's still going to be the same like structure to each one. Like there's probably not going to be as many reward challenges as there are on this season without like
they said that.
Yeah, but it's going to be faster paced. You're not going to have that day where like the tribe doesn't talk about strategy
Yeah.
or doesn't do anything because literally there's a tribal council like every other night. So
Mhm.
I think there's going to be a lot more going on, a lot more to talk about. There's all these new twists and everything. So I actually think like who cares? Make it 2 weeks. Make it. I mean, we play Survivor in 15 minutes, and it's just as interesting sometimes. So I don't care how long it
Well,
is.
I
wouldn't
do kind
you?
of. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, wouldn't you say though that like because it is shorter, because like you mentioned, okay, we play Minecraft Survivors over the span of like 12 hours. That's not a real like lot of time to make genuine bonds with people and claim that you can play a social game based off of personal relationships that you're making over a couple of hours. Don't you think it would maybe make it harder now that it's a shorter game to actually make those social ties in such a short amount of time? Like those relationships that you're making, do you feel like those are going to have less weight to them because you're more willing to be like, yeah, I feel like cutting this relationship I made 3 days ago because the game's moving so fast? Do you think that the relationships are not going to mean as much in this new fast-paced game?
I think they're going to lose a lot of their stakes. Is the thing. Like, I think I think that people just not spending as much time with each other, they're going to lose a lot of the like emotion to the votes. Like, it's going to be a little more. I think streamlined is the word. I do think though that like kind of going back to what we were saying before about like the day of downtime, I think even though it isn't the most compelling television, it could lead to people kind of spiraling and like overthinking things and potentially like trying to outsmart themselves almost and leading themselves to making kind of decisions that wouldn't exactly make sense in the first place.
Anyone want to jump in?
I mean, if there's anything we've seen disappear over the last few seasons, it's the importance of social game. Because all the trailers and like preseason and a bunch of the players in their preseason interviews like, I want to find an advantage and I want to do this and that. And I think they love editing that way more. And people do get frustrated with the edit all the time anyway. So I think that like the shorter season plus the way the game is going to make those quote unquote bonds, I don't think it's going to matter as much because I don't think that's the thing they're focusing on completely anymore with like the
Do
short.
you think the type of game that they are trying to move towards now with this new era of Survivor, which I'm actually just going to drop this in here too. They if they were going to keep going with the naming convention of having a subtitle with Survivor, this would have been called Survivor: Dawn of a New Era instead of Survivor 41. I don't know why they scrapped the idea. I would have thought that would have been great, to be honest. But do you feel like that this new era is this new era, they wanted to find a winning game or a game that should be rewarded in the edit as a game that's very strategic and very like maneuverable and adaptable to the amount of twists that they're going to throw at these players? Like that's what I think is happening. They want to reward the more like the Tonys that were able, like in Winners at War, when he was able to take that extortion disadvantage and like spin it in a way where he was able to make it favorable for himself. I feel like those are the types of actions that they want to reward in the edit now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think like a strategy game is kind of more quantifiable to an audience than a social game is. You know, like some of the greatest social winners of Survivor aren't really necessarily as well respected, which I don't really agree with, but it kind of does. That is how it comes out to be in the edit and all that they like to focus on those big strategy moves. So I think I mean, I could definitely see them moving in that direction of trying to put more strategy into the game and less social.
A lot of the deleted scenes are the social game at work. So it shows you in the promotional material and like what they cut. Like a vast majority of some of the greatest social game moments, in my opinion, are from deleted scenes that, just came up on YouTube and stuff. So I think they're trying to streamline it. I think is the key. They want the fast pace. I mean, just look at the promo we just watched. Like, what are they showing in those? They're showing like people taking the risk, grabbing the idol, Russell Hant smiling, saying I ain't finished playing just yet, all that. Like that's what they want to highlight. Jeff said you got to adapt to the strategy. That was his word. So, it's very clear what direction
They really love that. Yeah. They really love that word adapt. And they can use that word so much when it comes to, if we keep throwing twists at the players, They can just say, "Oh, well, they should have adapted. Otherwise, of course they were going to get voted out." And I think that's what Jeff is alluding to with this monster that is chasing after you, and he's used.
No,
Maybe
it's
maybe
him
the real
hammer-fisting his shitty, out-of-touch way of looking at the show because he's like, well, people hated the tribesmen at first, and people hated idols at first. He's trying to like cleverly say that people will probably come around to liking his Edge of Extinction baby at some point too. Or he got out of touch to fucking realize that people just genuinely dislike something.
God bless Mike White. That's
Yeah.
all I have to say.
Yeah,
maybe the real monster is production.
They're literally the ones making the twist. So, actually, I have this in my notes too that I wanted to mention is what's your reaction to former player of David versus Goliath, Mike White, telling Jeff Probst when Jeff Probst called Mike White while they were still in the process of doing creative for season 41. They wanted to include fire tokens so that they could stress capitalism in society. I don't know what Jeff was thinking. And he pitched it to Mike White, and Mike White said, I trust what you're saying and see what you're saying, but is it fun? And those three words were what changed Jeff Probst and the creative team's direction with how they wanted to go with season 41. They wanted to include twists that they thought would be fun for the players and for the viewers to watch. What do you think about Mike White saying, is it fun in response to the fire tokens? Basically getting Jeff to scrap the idea of fire tokens for this season.
I mean, God, like I said, God bless him. It's nice to know that someone other than Tyler Perry or Reggie O'Donnell are in the ear of Jeff Probst making decisions about our game. Like, it's good to know. I love Mike White. I respect him. True winner of David versus Goliath, in my opinion. And
Smoke weed.
yeah, he had like cannabis oil in his sunscreen or something, and he like rubbed it on his skin to get high on the island. Unconfirmed, by the way, but no, like bless him.
Can you get high off of that? Can you get high off of
100%.
sunscreen?
You can, 100%.
Okay.
It, like absorbs into your skin.
I'm just
like you
wondering.
don't
If
know.
It's more just like a body high than.
It's just nice to know a player is like has some influence, like, and a player that I know has like, you
Is
know,
in touch with the game.
The community's interest at heart. Because like
Especially-
Lord knows, like you know, like the Stephen Fishbacks and Rob Sesterninos like have no voice or say in the series at all. So
Yeah, like what Jeff Probst was trying with like the whole economy and all that, like that's not Survivor. That's another game. Like I just feel like
Monopoly.
yeah, right.
Survivor has always been, not to get too meta, but Survivor for work like has always highlighted the worst aspects of society, like, and doesn't shy away from it. Like, I mean, we saw for years, like,
Island of Isle-
you know,
Isles.
blatant like racism, homophobia, old women getting voted out first every single time, like sexism. Like literally the first couple seasons were all about like, you know, oh, she's lazy or he's loud or whatever. Like it is a microcosm of society. Like you don't need to force your narrative. The narrative takes place just by having a diverse cast.
I agree, and I think what I wanted to say is just as long as we have a diverse cast that can deliver, you don't need to have like an abundance of twists and like advantages, which I don't think it's gonna matter. Like based off of, we're gonna watch the first 3 minutes that they released of the show. Also, they're probably gonna have a bunch of twists and advantages in this new season, but having your seasons revolve around something like fire tokens and just one specific twist and just putting so much energy into that, it's like you're not putting your trust in the cast, in their ability to deliver, in my opinion.
Yeah, and like I think what we were saying about Jeff Probst as well is it's hardly a new thing. Like back in 2011 when South Pacific was announced to advertise an island as well after it was like kind of reviled after the first time. Jeff made this giant rant on Survivor Sucks, which is an older like message board about Survivor.
No, he did not.
Yeah, he made this giant fucking rant about he made this giant rant about like how the fans are ungrateful and don't know what's best for the show. Let me see if I can find it.
Well, I think there's some truth to what he's saying, where it's like we might not know, like, because at the end of the day, us here, like the hardcore fans, I don't think we're that big of a percentage of the entire audience that watches in America, because I
Right.
think
Oh, God,
then it's
no.
more about ratings, right? And I think they do have a better understanding than us of,
Of
what gets
ratings.
ratings for like casual
I'll
audiences.
agree. I do feel like having a lot of I hate saying it, but like having twists that do provide for like, oh my gosh, like what's gonna happen moments does draw people to keep watching again. Because like I don't think I actually agree with Jeff Probst when he says they should not do another Back to Basics season because it wouldn't be entertaining enough. It wouldn't capture like the attention span of like the wider Survivor audience, like the casual fans. Like they'd be like, oh, it's just another Survivor season where the same old is happening. Like that, you do kind of have to keep it fresh and different season to season. Otherwise, people are gonna start saying this is the same thing that I'm watching year in and year out.
Well, if you aired Australian Outback right now, I think it'd get canned. Probably.
Well, I think people also have different expectations of what the show would deliver. Like, that was also at a time like before reality TV was really anywhere near as popular as it is now, and the success of the first two seasons of the show are pretty much like what led the whole genre to blow up in the
But
US.
that's Tim's point though, is you can't
Yeah.
recapture that magic because it's
Oh
a
yeah.
show that's older than than multiple people on this panel. Like what was relevant and popular back then, it would not be successful today. And I think Tim's point and Jeff's point are that, they have to keep coming up with twists. They have to keep trying new things or else it's gonna get stale. I mean, it's season 41 for a reason, And like, yeah, there have been some duds, but like to Jeff's point, to give him some credit, he was right about the tribe swap and right about the idols, but he's been wrong about other stuff, So
So, I guess coming back to what we watched with the video, I'll look at the evolution and bold new era of Survivor. Jeff is saying he wants to include the player, or sorry, not the players. He wants to start including the audience in on things that the show is going to do before they let the contestants know, so that it poses the question to us as the audience. You have the information before the players. What would you do in this situation? What do you guys think about that change in the way that they're going to present the narrative and present the story of Survivor now? Them telling us the twist beforehand. Do you think it's indicative of them being like, all right, we don't want you to get pissed off that we're doing this twist, so we're just letting you know now in advance?
I think it's not bad. Like I don't see much wrong, or I don't see like anything much different with like Jeff walking like and just explaining what they're doing rather than just someone like rereading it off of a piece of paper that they just found in the woods. Like in the first season, Jeff like explained everything to the audience, and it was like whatever. I don't see why it would be a huge difference this time around.
Yeah, I was just worried just because like I've never really gone back to watch the older episodes to see the older seasons where I've seen Jeff like necessarily start talking to the audience in the middle of the season. So if it's worked before, then I guess it's not the worst thing that could happen.
Well, it was only in Borneo, and it was just basically him explaining the format of the show, like as a whole. Like this is the tribal council, area where people will come to vote out someone of their tribe, and blah 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 blah. Like, it won't be a huge thing, I don't think. Maybe weird, like for a couple episodes, but
I feel like they have to watch out not to make it seem like the people in the game are stupid, right? If they're going to be explaining to us what happens, and then like someone proceeds to do something dumb, and I really don't hope it happens, but like Jeff commenting on like what just happened and like how he views it is going to make it so that production can paint a picture even way more of what they think it should be.
Even worse, Tim. Like I agree with you. I was gonna say like I'm worried that like if they don't like how someone's articulating a narrative or they don't agree with the narrative that's being articulated, that they're just gonna revise the whole thing. Like I'm worried about revisionism, honestly. Like if this is the direction they're going, like we're eventually gonna reach a point like where we're just watching highlight clips with like Jeff and his ego talking over like what he likes. And we've seen very much in the past that Jeff is not necessarily always the best arbiter for like what is and isn't popular when it comes to player edits specifically.
I guess for me, my take on them, I guess from a production standpoint, them having Jeff mention the twists beforehand before the players, to me, it seems like it's a way, because like from my past experience of being a super fan and just reading up on articles before, like on Inside Survivor when they reveal certain information before it's actually released for the bigger viewing audience. I just want to, I guess, include this little bit where during Heroes, Healers, and Hustlers, people were pissed off when it came to the Final Four twist that helped Ben go into forced fire making and essentially got him to Final Three and him winning the season. Like, everyone remembers how mad everyone was about that twist, right?
We all know where we were and what we were doing when that twist was revealed.
Do we? Not me.
I was watching Survivor at that point.
I was probably just watching Survivor. But basically, everyone was not, like, for the most part, people were pissed off about that twist. Like, they gave it to Chrissy and they said, this is an advantage. But, like, clearly, you could tell by her reaction, no, this is not an advantage in the form of information. You're screwing us over. We can't plan our end game. And to me, it didn't bother me as much because I had previously read up on Inside Survivor before the season was aired. There was an article that said, hey, there is a new twist at the Final Four that they are doing. It is a forced fire making where the winner of the immunity basically goes into Big Brother mode, chooses two people to go into a forced fire making, and then whoever wins that fire making makes it a Final Three, and then the loser gets eliminated that way. And so I was already expecting to see that twist. So knowing that and knowing Ben's narrative going into the finale of Healers, Hustlers, I was like, okay, Ben has a chance of like making it to the Final Three because they have that twist in play. Because I know that twist is coming, and for most people in the viewing audience, they probably were already expecting, oh, it's going to be Chrissy or Devin that's going to win. Just because as soon as the immunity challenge is over, because that's what you're expecting, because there's not this last minute twist coming up. And then you flash forward a little bit. People were not happy when Ben won Heroes, Healers, Hustlers because of his last minute saving grace. And for me, I was happy that Ben won because I was rooting for him the entire time, and because I love a good underdog, even though it's pretty casual of me to say. I was rooting for him, and I was happy with the twist because I knew it was coming. So I think relating it back to season 41, them telling us the twists that are about to happen in advance is like their way of like what's the word? Diffusing any sort of like backlash that they might get for a controversial twist if it's too big or too heavy-handed for the audience. It's just their way of saying, we're letting you know in advance so that you don't get as mad about it if it doesn't work out. So
it's a shit excuse because it's not about us knowing; it's about the people in the game getting to know because it's just dumb. I get it, and I think, but you also know that like liking Ben is an unpopular opinion, right?
Yes, okay, I know.
So the whole point is that it's unfair to people like Devin and Chrissy to have to adapt to something they really can't prepare for, and it only helps the one person. So they're gonna try and tell us as like a way of like, well, we told you, so you know you can't be mad about it. But I think a lot of us were mad for Devin and Chrissy because they didn't know. It's not really about us knowing. I think it's more about the people in the game getting to know.
Yeah, I think like if they had just told the contestants at the beginning of the season that this was a format change that they were going to do, I think it would have been more than okay. But the fact that they just laid it on them right at the Final Four immunity challenge, I think that's where it gets dicey.
How do you adapt to something like fire making? Right?
Right.
What is Devin supposed to do? Be like, no? Like, he can't say no.
I refuse.
I don't know. I think it's a bit of a...
I agree with him.
One-side way to look at it.
Yeah, I think the main thing working against the fire making as a twist also is it takes away a lot of control of the situation. Like that one is like that twist specifically. Like the other players, they just kind of have to sit there. Like they can't really do much. They just can like practice fire more or less and hope the person that they want to go home can't make fire.
I always like the idea that they have like this 1 round buffer, you know, at Final Four where no idols or anything like that can really save you. Like you're just on your own. You either win immunity or, you know, are socially good enough with the other contestants that they want to bring you to the end or find some sort of strategic way to make it there. But the fact that like this forced fire making just completely takes that away. You can win immunity or have an idol at Final 5, use it, and then just be put into fire making at 4, win that, and get to the end. Like I never really liked that.
Can we at least, I guess, somewhat agree to just say that twists are important in the game. New twists, specifically, that they haven't done before, are important to demonstrate a player's capability to adapt to a situation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
Presented in a way where it's fair, sure, but I think a lot of recent examples, and I think only recent examples have shown that the show can take things, even things we cheered at, right? Like
Mhm.
Dan getting
ejected.
idol nullified. No, not
Uh,
Dan Spilo. And they just live.
They
Like
versus
we were
Goliath.
all
Yeah.
like, "That's awesome. That's so cool." But if I was Dan, I'd be like,
Oh, yeah.
"Well, what
This
the
is
fuck was I
BS.
supposed to be without
that's
this?"
total
You know?
bullshit.
They need
Right.
information. They just need to
Yeah.
make the information available. Like, we don't even need to see it as like the fans, but give the fucking players a little packet at the start of the season that's like, hey, stuff may or may not be in the season. Like, do with this information what you will. You don't even have to do everything. You could say there's going to be an idle nullifier, and then not actually use it, but just give them a little packet at the start of the season that says like these are all the twists that might be in it. And if they want to do the game within the game, they want us to play along at home, give us the packet too then. Give us a little PDF and we can look through and go, "Oh, what if they find like the idle nullifier or whatever, you know." If this
I hate
is the
to break
direction
it
they
to-
want to go, but
Brett, I hate to break it to you, kid, but I don't think that's the type of thing that a casual would actually go out of their way to do. They
Oh,
wouldn't
I'm
go out of their way to
sure,
read
but
the
they're
PDF.
they're talking about like I mean, Jeff literally said it. He's like, "What would you do if you had this advantage?" So like, if they're gonna start going down that road, like I don't know, if we're gonna have the information, the players damn well better have the information, in my opinion. But
I don't know. I feel like they should have certain twists that no one knows anything about. Just because if you give them that packet of like information of like twists that may or may not appear, then you're just gonna have people literally metagaming and just saying, "Wait, I read in that packet that this might be here, so we got to plan around this." And then it's just like the magic almost feels taken away.
I think
Because
there's a fine
you're
line.
just planning
Fair
for
enough.
like
Fair
you're
enough.
just
Fair enough.
planning for hypotheticals that like probably won't happen, and then it just like it might not even be important to like what someone's plan is.
Well, but that's the issue with introducing new twists forever, right? Because at some point we're gonna have with how fast they're introducing new twists at this pace. Look at that, how much shit we like from here's from HHH until Winners at War. Just that stretch of 5 seasons, we've gotten so many new things, right? Now imagine Survivor 60. Think about how many things those players are gonna have to account for. It's going to be nuts.
yeah, I mean, it's
You're
just
have to
gonna
worry
be
about- maybe someone has a stealer vote. Maybe someone has an idle nullify. Maybe someone has this. Maybe someone has this. Maybe someone has this. Maybe someone like can nullify the fire making challenge. And if that's all like one big roulette wheel, then how do you even end up playing this game at that point? Like, because you have to guess so many things.
Yeah, I
It's like a
think
crapshoot at that point
Yeah,
of
it's-
advantages.
I think there's a line they have to tread between like keeping suspense in the game while also like being upfront with the players. Like when they introduced the hidden immunity idol, they just straight up told the players in the round that it was put in the game. There's this thing at your camp called the hidden immunity idol. This is what you do or with it, like, and this is like what it looks like basically. And I think if they do stuff like that, where basically they say, not necessarily like every time like being completely honest with the players, but I do think like a degree of transparency would allow them to plan ahead without completely just like at the start of the game saying we're doing this, and this. Like, get ready.
I know we already talked about this, but the 26 days, right? Just one point I wanted to bring up is I think the 26 days, as much as I would rather it be 39 days, it turning 26 days gives more opportunity, I feel, for the show to flesh out more in-depth strategies and like events at camp, because now you're dividing the amount of total time per episode. Instead of like a 3-day episode, you have a 2-day episode or a 1-day episode cycle. Do you think that these 2-day cycles, at the very least, we're gonna be able to see more in-depth strategies that like might be very nuanced, actually get fleshed out though?
Yes. I think so, in terms of having that short an amount of days. You could have someone who's like really fucking paranoid, and with it only being a 24-hour cycle between each tribal.
Could be.
It's something like that. It may be a little bit more, but you don't have a lot of time to strategize. And
would you say you get to see that paranoia more?
Absolutely. Usually, I mean, 100%. With there being 3 days between each tribal, they're going to have more time to think about what they're trying to do, talk to people at least once a day. And with it being such a short time to actually communicate with each other, hopefully what I'm trying to see is something that we don't generally notice once in a while, which is quite interesting or entertaining, and where stuff actually comes out at tribal, where it actually switches the vote, or say like an outburst or whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. But I think it's really going to bring out the mentality of someone's character, with it being such a short
high
amount of time
pressure.
to actually. Yeah, absolutely. High power, high. Whatever you fucking just said, I'm wasted. Fast paced. I think it's gonna be quite interesting.
I think what you also meant was like it's going to be high pressured, it's going to be high stress. So how are these players going to react to this high level amount of stress? Like,
absolutely.
I would even argue too that like when you are put in a high stress situation, that is when your fight or flight mode kind of kicks in, and that's when I would say sometimes that's when your true character comes out. How do you deal with adversity, and how do you sink or do you swim, fight or flight?
And do you guys feel like I don't know if this is like has anything to do with it, what we were talking about already, but do you guys think we would see more of the type of fast-paced gameplay as you would see in, say, your series? Do you think that it would be more, because it's hectic when we did play? Do you guys feel that we would see similarities in terms of maybe gameplay or how people scramble in terms of trying to figure out what to do for the vote, or finding numbers and whatnot? Do you guys feel like you guys will see resemblance of our Chris's series?
I think that's kind of apples to oranges, personally, just because you're comparing like a 15-minute round of strategy after a challenge to like a full like afternoon to days worth of strategy. But that's just my personal opinion.
I think there is some sort of credence to that, because it's not going to be the exact same as like how one of my seasons works, because it is 15 minutes, but I do feel like now that you're given like a shorter amount of period of time, you're going to be more willing to say, hey, I get a good vibe from you in passing to other players, and you're not going to have as much time to spend. Like, you have to be very careful with the amount of time you spend per person when you talk to them. Like, you guys know firsthand from playing in my Survivor, you have to be very careful with the amount of time you spend with talking to people, because you might, if you spend too much time talking to one person, that leaves you barely any time to talk with another person. And those are, I feel like, the type of dilemmas that people are going to face in Survivor 41, where they are going to say, I want to talk to this person to reassure them enough, but I have to be very aware and of the fact that like maybe I shouldn't talk to them as much, and just say maybe I'll give them like 30 minutes of time to talk, so that I can spend another 15 or 20 minutes of time to talk with someone else that maybe I'm not as strong with my relationships with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
I think the strategy time's still going to remain the same, though, because they're still going to do like a challenge during the morning or something, and then the tribal at night. So I think the time that they have to talk for an actual vote is going to kind of remain the same. But I think the big change is there's going to be that less time to bond in between rounds, and when you're not at tribal and stuff like that. So I do think it's going to make for more chaotic gameplay overall, but like the rounds are going to remain relatively the same, I think.
What we're going to do now is we're going to actually watch the first 3 minutes, or actually I'm not sure how long it is, the first 2 minutes.
The heavy highlight reel.
Can we skip the first 15 seconds?
I wish we could. I really wish we could, but
No way.
we gotta watch the whole 2 minutes and 15 seconds to get a feel of what is in store for Survivor 41, and get our reactions to how they are editing the season, or at least edited the first 2 minutes. We just watched the first 2 minutes of Survivor 41, and thoughts. I don't know if you guys noticed, but they had a lot of visuals of advantages and twists being added into the game in between the introductions of each of the players. What do you think that bodes
Damn,
for?
you're already playing the game within the game, Chris. I didn't even notice any of that shit. I really
You didn't?
No.
I thought it was just
I
like,
thought it was like
footage
stock
of them.
footage. Yeah, I literally thought it was just stock footage. I was like, oh, Jeff was like, oh, here, use this
No.
from like the breaking the urn from like Redemption Island or
No,
whatever.
I seriously think them breaking the glass
I'm
on some
saying.
hourglass.
I'm not making fun of
that's
you.
bullshit.
I'm not making fun of you. I'm saying you're playing the game within the game. We're not. You're on the other level.
Dude,
think
I
them
read the
breaking
edit. I read the edit.
100%. That fucking glass, that's fucking filler as fuck.
No. Yeah, they're like, no one see, like, apparently they dropped a dice in like some sort of like compartment. Them having like some sort of a arrow that points to risk your vote, protect. I don't know. I just noticed that. What do you guys think about all of those visuals that they showed within just the first 2 minutes?
Shit looks like
Absolutely
fucking Ghost
horrifies
Island.
me. Yeah.
I think we just said everything we thought about it.
It's Ghost Island for twists we haven't seen before.
Oh my god, no. Please.
If it's literally just that, I'm pissed.
Yeah.
The first 3 minutes are like such a joke. Like it, we
all
literally
just
got
like-
nothing from that. It's all they are just
I got a lot.
restating.
We got
Chris,
Danny from it,
yeah,
baby.
It's all
Chris, they're just
stock
restating. They're restating their just survivor bios. Like if you want the first 3 minutes, go read their bios on their thing.
Well, I noticed these things, and I thought it was interesting that they included it, because I do feel like those twists are like hints of things to come in the season, which I think is pretty cool. Did anyone notice that they started using in real life footage in some of the cast introductions?
Leave it out of there.
They used-
Gandia Johnson used it when she got introduced.
Stop.
in
Okay,
her
I know,
season.
but like it's been a while since they've done it. They
Yeah.
showed Tiffany's reaction to when they told her you're going to Fiji, and they showed Voce. I can't believe we have to call him by that. Voce in the hospital walking.
Oh, you have so
Like,
many
what do you-
Davids. Why not call him Voce? Actually,
Yeah,
no.
why not?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think of them using IRL footage?
I think it lends to
Leave it
them
out.
being more kind of real people.
Dude,
More-
that
that
shit
they're
was
more-
scripted
yeah.
as fuck.
No, I'm with JP here, where it does make it feel like they're more real people. This is what they do in their regular lives.
What, was no one else who played before this not real?
No, that's not what I'm saying. It's just like, oh dang, they're like a normal person like me. Like it feels like, oh, I could be that. I don't know.
I can
I don't
live
know.
vicariously through them.
Like, yeah, wouldn't you freak out if they told you you were going to Fiji? Like, come on.
Yeah, but like
I mean,
they
wouldn't tell me
know.
like on there's a secret
Yeah.
fucking camera.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
Yeah,
Dave,
like
so-
they're like,
Wait, I'm going to
yeah.
Fiji?
Set up the
Wait,
Getting a
what the
call
hell is
from
this?
Jeff
Is this
Brooks.
like a
Let me set up
camera
the
right
cam
here?
real
What
quick.
the hell?
Another interesting thing that they mentioned in this, and this is the last thing I'm going to talk about, and I know I'm nitpicking
Let's
literally
get to the
everything.
draft, baby.
I am literally picking everything out of these 2 minutes that I
Ooh.
can. But I think it's interesting that Tiffany in her introductory confessional mentions I was an alternate for this show, and they told me I was an alternate to you're not on the season 2. You're coming onto the show 24 hours before filming. To me, I feel like that's something that typically most reality TV shows don't mention, is like the casting process and like how like all the behind the scenes stuff works. And so I don't know, to me it becomes more of like, as a super fan, it's really cool that the show is acknowledging, yeah, these people have to put in a lot of time and effort to try to get cast, and they are also super fans just like us that might have, you know, had their dream, maybe are on their way to getting their dream being realized through being an alternate, then it being taken away, then oh no, you're on the cast, your dream is coming true.
I don't think it's a new thing. They like,
Yeah,
and Chrissy mentioned being like applying for like 17 years or whatever.
yeah.
Or,
Same with like Dan from Worlds Apart. Like he mentioned that he applied for forever before getting on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's
Okay.
different when we're talking about them just being alternates as well, though.
Right, like you
I don't
never
think that's
really
ever
hear
came
about
out.
alternates. You never hear about alternates because it's just like a not like, why mention being a backup, I guess. But like I think it has more weight this time around because the casting process was so wonky because of the pandemic, and they did lose people because people were like, I don't know if I want to do this because of the pandemic, and then they had to keep scrambling to find new people. So yeah, that's just my take on the first 2 minutes.
You want to hear a far-fetched theory on why they did that?
Not really.
It's a good
What?
okay. I think it's a good way to get out of this. I think
Okay,
they're
okay.
doing it because so many people apply for the show, maybe get into the casting process. They want like an example of like, well, you should keep applying and keep trying because even she, after being an alternate, can get on the show. So don't give up. Like,
I
keep
agree.
doing it.
No, that I actually kind of agree with that because that is the kind of feeling that I got from just hearing her and listening to her talk about like going through the process because it is a hard process.
If there was anyone they should have done it with, it should have just been Davey. I think
Oh,
there's
yeah.
nobody better. But,
Yeah.
You know.
So I'm just going to quickly read a tweet.
I got a quote from
They premiered the first 6 minutes of Survivor 41 to critics at the TCA 2021, and so I'm just gonna read. It's like I don't know. What does it stand for? TCA. What does it stand for?
Television.
It just keeps
Critics
Television's Critics Association. So
Oh, God.
basically, these high up critics got a 6 minute sneak peek of Survivor 41. So I'm going to read the takeaways
Lucky.
from it, and then your reactions to it. So, Probst says the downtime led to some really new, fun, exciting, and definitely dangerous ideas, referring to the pandemic. So, in terms of what they saw in the first 6 minutes, there's no difference between Jeff Probst introducing the twist to the start of the Survivor 41's premiere as he's walking through the jungle and looking at the camera. You can play along, Probst tells viewers.
I hate that.
I hate it.
I hate it. Yeah.
It's like
All right.
Dora the Explorer. It's like the use of the immunity idol.
Yeah. I know, that's what it's gonna be.
All right,
Anyway,
we're
Chris,
going to
go ahead.
lean into the best kind of Survivor fun, the dangerous kind, Probst says. We're just trying to evolve the experiment a little more. Then he talked to, quote, you younger future Survivor players, end quote.
Oh my god, that's us.
He's doing the thing I thought I was joking about where he turns to the camera and he goes, "We're live, pal." It's which is not
All right.
a good thing, by the way.
I know I know you guys aren't happy about it. There's more to this tweet. There's no full Survivor theme song. Boo.
Boo.
Just a clip of it and some electric guitar.
Hey yo wee yo wee.
Just imagine some like Metallica.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see this on the next Guitar Hero. Oh my god.
And then lots of audio of production talking over radios. This is Jeff Probst in Survivor's Fourth Wall.
And
it's
then
a
it
GIF.
shows the Kool-Aid Man.
It shows a
walking
GIF of the
through a wall.
Kool-Aid
Yeah.
Man crashing through a wall. They are breaking the fourth wall.
And it keeps
Survivor.
repeating. And it came back again.
Yep,
Again.
Survivor's breaking the fourth wall
Again.
because later in the next tweet, Andy Denhart says, Denhart? I don't know. I'm not kidding. We get to see Crane, cameras, and the crew. Also, Probst discusses the cast quarantining, which is the kind of transparency I appreciate. The rest of the Survivor TCA 21 preview is cast intros, which are pretty typical of Survivor, except they are intercut with footage you'd normally get during the opening sequence. Then Probst talks to the cast and pretends he doesn't know the cast names. Ah, the familiar. I'm very curious to see if Survivor's fourth wall breaking has a purpose, or if it's the kind that was popular about 10 years ago when reality shows wanted to prove they weren't Duck Dynasty, so they showed us a camera or two. So yeah, what do you guys think about like what this Andy Denhart, I'm saying his name wrong, Denhart? Yeah. What do you guys think about Andy Denhart's takes on the first 6 minutes? They're going to be showing the cranes and the camera crew apparently to break the fourth wall. Is that something that you guys are like, that's a little weird, or something that you
Terrifying.
appreciate?
It's scary. It's scary, but it's like, again, the season comes down to the cast. Like, none of this shit matters at the end of the day. Like, the season is going to be made or broken based on like the gameplay and the cast and like the moments and stuff like that. Like, I guess if it's done nicely, like maybe it'll be like, it's not going to be more than like, that was cool, or ugh, I hated that. That was cringe. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, that's going to be the range of emotion I have about that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it almost kind of ruins like the immersion a bit, though, a little. Like the
Right.
one time we've ever really seen the camera crew was like when Caleb was getting medevaced
Yeah.
and Co Wrong, and that really put like a real sense to what was happening. But I don't know, like these things. I don't know. I want to feel like I'm on the island with the people, not like with the camera crew and stuff.
Yeah, see, I actually agree. I'm kind of conflicted because part of me is like, as the super fan, is like, yo, this is really cool. We get to see the behind the scenes and like behind the sneak peek of everything that's going on, like that goes into production. I don't know. Maybe I just am really intrigued by production.
Is that what we're turning on to for Wednesday though? Is that like
Probably not.
No.
Like why?
It's again,
What's
I
the
think it's
point?
the super fan in me and the fact that like, I've produced 8 seasons. I want to see how they produce their shit. So it kind of looks kind of like it just seems cool to me. But
Or
on the other hand,
make it
I'm
an exclusive on Twitter or YouTube. It's just going to take 5 minutes away that we could have spent with the cast or whatever. I don't know. It's like I don't. Why? It's just
It's
a
a- yeah.
shitty excuse to like make spectacle where it doesn't matter.
I don't know. For me, that's why I'm conflicted because I agree with that point too. I'm intrigued by the like, oh my god, I get to see the production, but at the same time, I also want to feel like this is just about the cast and the cast only, and I want to see how the cast interacts with each other. I don't want to be seeing no boom mics or cameras in the way because they are not a part of the show tech. Like, at its core, it should be about the cast. All right, and that concludes our preseason hype and reactions to Survivor 41. Coming up next on Tuesday will be the draft that the 6 of us will take part in. So please stay tuned for that. We will be giving our cast reactions one by one. I hope you enjoyed this little return to the Medical Room podcast that we have here. Let us know if you want us to do any other podcasts about any other topics, or if you want us to continue podcasts regarding Survivor 41. I would love to do more of these type of videos. This was fun to put together, kind of last minute. So let us know if you want more podcasts in the future, and we'll see if I can deliver. All right. Take care, everybody. See ya.